I call the Minister for Local Government.
I rise as the Minister for the North Coast on this occasion to support the amended motion moved by the member for Sydney, and I'd like to acknowledge his long involvement with this issue. And I note that I think next week you're going to be part of a panel at Sydney University to discuss this issue. Between 1863 and 1904, more than 60,000 Melanesians were brought to work in fields and farms across Queensland and northern New South Wales. Today marks the 150th anniversary of the arrival of the first ship carrying these men. They were coerced, they were kidnapped, and their conditions were incredibly poor. Those who signed agreements didn't understand what they were signing or the agreements that they were entering into. Around 30% of these young men, aged from their teens into their early 30s, died because they lacked immunity to many of the diseases common to the European community, while those that survived were treated as second-class citizens. They were worked incredibly hard and were given very low rates of pay. One of the first pieces of legislation passed by the new federal government was the Pacific Islander Labour Act 1901, which was integral to the White Australia policy. It allowed the workers to be repatriated back to their southern South Sea homes, where they were known. The workers had often started families and settled in Australia. Many were not even really sure from where they were taken, so they were dislocated by being forced to come here and then sent back with no idea, in some cases, exactly where their family was. A few were allowed to stay on humanitarian grounds, but trade unions made it impossible for them to work, and they were left on the fringes of society in Queensland and northern New South Wales. In the Tweed, the first South Sea Islander workers arrived to work in the cane fields around the Tweed in the Brunswick Valley in the 1880s. By 1891, there were 105 recorded South Sea Islanders in and around Coogin and Tumbulgum. The Pacific Islander Labourers Act 1901 had seen great numbers deported, but some were still working in the Coogin area. The Act was amended to include a £100 fine for employing, quote, unregistered Kanakas. There were also large numbers of the South Sea Islanders at Tumbulgum, including the father of remarkable Australian human rights activist Faith Bandler, one of the major forces behind the success of the referendum recognising Aboriginal rights in this country in 1967. The peoples of the South Seas are integral to the history of the North Coast. For instance, the name of Wadigo's Beach at Byron Bay is that of a prominent Islander family. We still have many South Sea Islander people on the North Coast, and in more recent times their contribution has been better recognised. They were integral in the development of the sugar industry, the banana industry, the timber industry, and clearing land for the dairy industry. I'm happy to say that some positive initiatives in relation to the South Sea Islander community and other communities in New South Wales have occurred on the North Coast. The New South Wales Migration Heritage Centre worked on a research partnership with the Tweed Shire Council to produce a book about this issue, and the Tweed River Regional Museum staged an exhibition. That exhibition was awarded the prestigious National Trust Heritage Award in the Cultural Heritage Community Groups category. The story of the banana growing and sugarcane industries on the Tweed River, including the labour history of South Sea Islanders, are featured in the online exhibition Objects Through Time, a migration history timeline hosted on the Migration Heritage Centre's website, migrationheritage.nsw.gov.au. It is popular with teachers and students and a very good resource. A DVD, Sweet Harvest, has also been produced and is on the website. Fortunately, today we live in a different world than that which prevailed in the late 1800s. Today in New South Wales, multiculturalism is enshrined into legislation as the Community Relations Commission and Principles of Multiculturalism Act, which recognises the different linguistic, religious, racial and ethnic backgrounds of individuals and the basic right of all people in New South Wales to practice and maintain their heritage. I was pleased to see the member for Sydney acknowledge the contribution of Victor Dominello, the Minister in our government, on these matters, and his preparedness to work cooperatively with the member for Sydney in bringing the plight of these South Sea Islanders forward and making people more understanding of the dark history, the dark chapter in our history when these people weren't treated in the way they should have been. There's no doubt that there's been insufficient recognition of both their plight and their circumstances as South Sea Islanders, and I'm pleased that we are recognising them in this motion today, and I commend the member for Sydney for bringing it forward in a way which I think does acknowledge after all this time that things happened in the past that we're not proud of, and we should do all we can to make sure that our South Sea Islander friends and neighbours get a better deal than they have had in the past.